It's always amazing when you can share stories about women in sports who are doing great things. But it's the icing on the cake when you can talk to someone who's working in a sport that's not as widely recognized. I'm here today with Mia Gordon, host and producer of National Lacrosse League Productions. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I was looking at your bio and you've pretty much worked in a lot of places. And, to go back, you also got a scholarship and went to the States. So can you tell me a little bit about going to the States, as a Canadian? What was that like? And sort of how did you fall into your passion of wanting to share stories of people in sports?
Well, it was an amazing experience going down to the States. I started playing competitive tennis when I was just 8 years old. And I was given this opportunity to go and train at the Chris Evert Tennis Academy when I was 15 years old. And it was a really hard decision for me because my family and my friends, they're all here in Canada. And I was quite young at the time, but I had this dream and this passion. And I just thought I would regret this so much if I didn't pursue my dream and really give it my all. And so without knowing anyone, I moved to Florida by myself and trained at this academy and got an amazing experience there. I got to travel the world playing tennis tournaments and got my ranking up. But it got to a point where I realized you have to dedicate so much of yourself to play a sport at the highest level. And especially with tennis, it's hard because it's such an individual sport. You don't have a whole team behind you. You don't have people supporting you like that. If you're having a bad day, you can't just have your teammates sub in for you. And when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, is this the life I really want to live when you're on the road every week and you're talking to your coaches and you're seeing a hotel room in the tennis courts? And after an injury, and I kind of got to have a quote unquote normal life for a little bit, I decided I wanted to go to university instead.
You like the normal life.
It was just, it was cool to be able to have a Friday night with friends and, to be able to go to birthdays or to be able to celebrate weddings and to not be like, no, sorry, I can't come to that because I have a tennis tournament or I have training. And, even I was doing online high school. So I never got a prom. And although everyone says they're overrated, I wanted to be able to say it was overrated for myself. So I decided that instead of pursuing professional tennis, I wanted to take a scholarship to the States, which playing NCAA is still an extremely high level. And the interesting thing with tennis is you either go pro or you go to NCAA. It's not like basketball or football where you play at an NCAA level and then you can go pro afterwards. Tennis, you have such a short lifespan as a professional athlete that you really have to choose one or the other. I ate my first alligator for the first time there.
And you're still here, you're still standing.
Still here and standing. Yeah, we actually went on a swamp tour and got stuck. And that was a pretty scary moment because there was alligators in this area. And, crawfish etouffee and just really, and crawfish boils was really popular there. So I really loved falling in love with that culture. The parties that they had and celebrating Mardi Gras and being able to be a part
now
of
that's
that.
the big party.
Yeah, right? Got a few beads saved up from that. So when I went to university, I really didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do. My whole life was tennis. And my dad was he's a director and a cinematographer, but more on the film side of things. And I interned at a couple of his production houses and I always thought I wanted to be a producer. It was so I went into broadcasting because that was the only course that offered production courses. And it was actually a professor in my first year who said, Mia, you love telling stories. Why don't you consider doing more of a reporting side of things, whether it be a journalist for newspaper or for TV, whatever it is, but you're so good at writing and you have a passion for it. And that's when I really thought about it. I was like, I do love writing and I do love sports, and why not try
Put
the two together and become a sports reporter. And so it was actually my first year at university, and one of my professors, thank you, John, gotta represent, who really pushed me in this direction. So I really have him to thank for where I am today.
So talk to me a little bit about, the work that you did with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and for Leafs TV. Do you prefer doing package stories or do you prefer doing stuff live on air? What's your preference?
It's weird because originally when I got into this industry, being an athlete myself, I realized that there's so many unique stories of these athletes, how they got into the sport, what obstacles and adversities they had to overcome. And so when I originally got into this industry, I really wanted to tell stories and put together packages and pitch story ideas. But then after working with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I fell in love with live hosting, just having the crowd's energy and atmosphere behind you and being able to interact with people live at the field. It was electric. And yeah, that buzz was just so awesome. And being live and just having that experience, I just really fell in love with the live side of things too. So I don't think I necessarily prefer one over the other. And that's what I love about the NLL too right now. Like, it's a combination of both. We do both live shows or recorded shows, but we also do tell the stories and packages. So I love them both. I first got involved with the NLL about 3 years ago. I was working as a reporter and anchor for Sun News Network, but I knew at this point I wanted to be involved in sports. And so I was kind of looking around at different teams I could maybe do some in-game hosting for. And I came across the Rock, Toronto Rock team, and I'd never watched a lacrosse game in my life. And I went down for the audition, and I saw my first game. It was a preseason game, and they're like, "Do you think you could do this?" And I was wide-eyed and jaw to the ground. I'm like, this is a sport that I haven't heard of. This is awesome. It's like a combination of hockey and basketball into one, but more intense. It's like the fastest game on 2 feet, they call it. And it really is so fast and so intense and so exciting. And it's high scoring, so there's constantly action going on. Intensity, and there's big rivalries. So I was hooked. The first game I saw, I was like, I need to be a part of this. And so then years down the line, when the NLL decided that they were going to launch their own digital TV station, I knew I wanted to be a part of it because I am so passionate about the sport, and I really think that it can grow into something big. And I was really excited to be a part of the grassroots of it. And so we just got a new commissioner on board who also has the same beliefs that this can be a huge sport and is excited to help it grow. And so they launched their own digital TV station, NLLTV.com, where they stream all of the games. You can catch all the games live from your living room. You don't have to go out and watch it. You don't have to hope that it's on the TV station at home, because one TV station might have the rights to it and another one doesn't, and you don't get that station. It's all on your computer. It's all right there for you. And then we also have our show called The Box on there, which we have a pre and post game show where we go over some big plays from the week, players that stood out. We tell unique stories in our segment called Outside the Box, where we feature whether it be a player or a team or just a unique story that's happening. And we really break it down, my co-host Tyson Geik and myself. And it's been very exciting. Already we're seeing such growth in such a short amount of time that I'm just so excited for what the future is going to have in store for this. And the great thing too is it's affordable, right?
Yes, that's a good.
It's not, you can take your whole family out to the game and be able to afford it.
Bank.
Exactly. Not have to take out a second loan on your house because
the game, you're not going to get a Christmas present.
And you can sit front row at the game, and you can be right up on the glass, and you're not breaking the bank, which is awesome too.
What was your experience like doing some broadcasting and hosting at the Olympics, the 2016 Olympics?
That was really cool. So I had always, being someone who loves telling the stories of athletes, the Olympics was always a dream of mine because they have such unique and incredible, amazing stories. And so I always dreamed of playing in the Olympics as a tennis player, but when that dream didn't pan through, I was like, well, I want to tell the stories of the Olympians. And so I literally would bug the director of CBC Sports all the time, being like, this is my dream, like, here's my demo reel, nonstop. And so finally, I guess an opportunity had popped up and my name came to his mind, and he actually contacted me and said, we have this opportunity to do some stuff with the Olympics. Would you be interested? I was like, yep, sign me up, take the job posting offline, like that is my job. And it was really cool because I also went to French immersion, so I'm fluent in French.
That must have helped out.
It did, because the position was reporting in English and French, and my French was a little rusty, so I was kind of nervous. But to be able to be, my job was solely to follow the Canadian athletes and report on what was happening with our Canadian athletes throughout the entire Olympics and throughout all different sports. So not only was it amazing to be able to report in both of our languages, and on all our Canadian athletes, but to be able to follow sports that I would never necessarily watch, like I had to follow every athlete. So I watched fencing for the first time ever.
I was going to say, it's a long list.
Yeah, I watched table tennis for the first time ever. And it was incredible because these sports that these people have worked their whole life at to get to the level of playing the highest level, Olympics.
Get a lot of opportunities to go to the Olympics.
Exactly. And, they might go under the radar because they aren't necessarily sports that are quote unquote popular, but to be able to watch them and gain my own appreciation for them and then be able to report on them was a really amazing experience.
And what was your favorite story or, maybe a favorite athlete or someone that you just connected with?
I think the women's rugby team with rugby sevens coming back into the Olympics for the first time, that was really awesome.
And I read somewhere that you're also friends with Milos. Right?
Yes. So Milos and I started training together. I was 8 and he was 7 when we both started playing tennis, and I grew up with him. And he was honestly like a little brother to me when we were growing up. Our parents were very close. His dad would take us to practice in the morning. My mom would pick us up and take us to school. We actually played mixed doubles together at a tournament in Florida one time. And so to see his success. I was
going to say, how cool is that?
It's a weird, I sat down and I interviewed him the other day and I was just thinking in my mind, I'm like, never in a million years would I have thought that we would be in this position one day.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud of what he's accomplished. It's amazing because he had this passion and he really went after it. And, it was a risk for him. He was offered a full scholarship to a school in the States as well, which is very rare for guys to be offered full scholarships because of the whole Title IX
and for tennis.
And for tennis particularly, a lot of those scholarships go to football and go to basketball. So he was offered a full scholarship, and he comes from a family of engineers. His dad's very smart, and education was huge for them. And he said, no, I'm going to pursue playing professional sports. And
he just knew in his gut that was the way to go.
Well, I actually originally started thinking about the blog and started blogging because I would get a lot of Facebook messages from, whether it be a lot when I was with the Ticats, from fans asking questions about who I am and this and that. And I didn't want to be just a personality on TV. I wanted people to get to know who I am and to know my journey and what I've gone through to get to where I am, because people see you on TV and they don't really know who you are that much. They think they know you, but I wanted to give them more of an inside look into everyday life and what it's like, and to let them know that I am a real person and you can talk to me and I'm a normal human being. But then it also evolved in the sense that I love sports, and being a sports reporter really is, I couldn't imagine doing anything else in this entire world. But I also have other passions and I have other loves that I enjoy talking about. So I didn't just want to be Mia Gordon, sports reporter. I wanted to be Mia Gordon. I wanted people to know those other hobbies and interests that I have. And a big one is travel. I love traveling. Yeah. I took a solo trip to Thailand last year, 2 years ago. And I just, getting immersed in different cultures and learning about different places and people and what makes them so unique is just a huge, huge passion of mine. And so I wanted to be able to share the other interests that I have with people. And I thought, what better way? I love writing, so why not write about it and share it? So it's actually when I went to Thailand on that trip, and the food in Thailand is so spicy. I'll ask for it like mild, and it was burning my taste buds. And I think it burnt my taste buds right off. So now I'm just like, the spicier, the better. I gotta have it. I put like a whole thing of wasabi on my sushi.
Wow.
I joke that I like to cry when I'm eating food or be like on the verge of tears. And that's how I enjoy it nowadays. And so, yeah, we'll go to a Mexican restaurant or whatnot. I'm like, I want the hottest sauce. Like, bring the ghost peppers, bring them on. And in fact, for Christmas this year, my boyfriend's family bought me 2 giant things of Frank's Red Hot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was my Christmas present this year, and I've literally gone through 1.5 of those bottles because I put Frank's on everything.
I was going to say you could do something and do the commercial for
I could. I'm like a living, breathing testimony to the fact that I literally do put Frank's on everything.
So going back to sharing a little bit about your passions and likes online, I know you're on Instagram and you have like thousands of followers. So how important is social media to what you do as a sports broadcaster? And, engaging with fans, not just for yourself, but also for the National Lacrosse League?
For myself, it's huge because I want fans to know that they can approach me and can talk to me, and I am a real person. And that's why when I first started doing the social media side, I didn't know how much was too much sharing. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? This is my life and this is what I get to do. And I want to be able to share that with people. And I want them to really get to know Mia Gordon, the person, not just Mia Gordon, the personality. And so social media is huge in the sense for me to be able to connect with, whether it be fans of the sport or people that have followed my career, because they get to see every journey along the way. But also with the NLL, as we try and grow the National Lacrosse League, social media is very important because it gets the word out there. And I'll post stuff at a game, and I've had people be like, okay, I never watched lacrosse until I saw your post about it, and now I'm hooked and I'm a fan, and it just took that one game. And it's true, like, I remember going to my first lacrosse game and I didn't know much about the sport, and after one game I was addicted to it. But so, yeah, I think social media is not only important for my brand, but also important for the league that I work for as we take these steps to try and build it to that next level. And social media is everything nowadays. It was interesting. I spoke to my mom about this a bit, who's definitely not a sports fan, but she loved hearing the athletes' stories. And I think we've been pulling away from that a bit. You turn on a lot of the sports stations and it's highlights, replays, highlights. Yeah, this was a score. This is how many goals this team got. But they don't actually get that opportunity to know the athletes who are playing. And my mom was the mom of an athlete. She would wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning to drop me off at the tennis court. She was traveling to Niagara or Oakville or Burlington or Florida on weekends to take me to tennis tournaments. So she understands that life. She understands the actual life of an athlete. And so what I think a lot of women are passionate about is actually getting to know these athletes on a more personal level, their journey, their experiences, what makes them unique. And that's what I really love reporting on, being able to find these unique stories. You know, I just had a sit-down interview the other day with a player who was offered a contract in the CFL, but chose playing in the NLL instead because he was just so passionate about this sport. And so telling these stories and
behind them.
Exactly.
Scenes,
getting behind the scenes, I think that will attract a lot of women. And I also just think we're seeing so many more women getting involved in the sport. Like, I'm hearing a lot more of female lacrosse leagues. So I think that also will translate. Getting more young girls involved in the sports at a young age will hopefully grow the game on the female side of things. When I went down to the States, I felt like I had to always be perfect. Because I wanted to be a professional athlete, and you have your coaches in one ear, like, you need to be healthier and you need to do this and you need to do that, to the point where I found myself in a position where I wasn't eating enough, and I wouldn't necessarily say an eating disorder, but it got to the point where I had this picture of what I needed to look like, and I was hurting myself trying to reach that goal. And it wasn't healthy. And, you know, when I don't have my mom there, I don't really have a support system there, it can get out of control pretty quickly because you're being told to do this. And
how are you able to come back to realizing that actually that's not the right model for me?
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
I think it was eventually when I went to university and having a coach who was constantly looking after me and saying, okay, there's like a way to be healthy and to still eat the right foods and to still eat enough of the foods. And I think so many girls can get lost in what they're supposed to look like or how they're supposed to be or what they think society wants them to be. And I think you have to, for me, at this point in my life, I've realized how important being healthy is for me. So I'm not going to go out and eat a bunch of junk food, but I'm going to go out and eat the right amounts of calories and make sure that I'm eating my full meals and make sure that I'm living a healthy lifestyle. And I did have to go through a learning curve for that. And so I just want girls to realize, like, you just need to be happy. You need to do what's right for you. You need to look inside and realize what's going to make you happy. At the same time, I'm a huge advocate for being healthy and for eating right.
Just having a balance.
Exactly. For having that balance. Like, treat yourself to chocolate now and then, but then make sure you're working out or make sure that the next day you're eating a healthy meal too. But there is a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of pressure when you're on air and when you're on TV and you look around and you see what other girls are doing. And it's like, okay, I have to be this size and I have to do this. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with yourself, that's what matters. And confidence just is the key. It shines. It doesn't. As long as you're confident in yourself and you're happy with yourself, people are just going to be attracted to that.
I think, you've really struck that balance of, enjoying your career, enjoying meeting new people through your travels, and also continuing to be a role model in sports for other women who may want to, have a career as a sports broadcaster. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.